Right now, I can see the full navigation interface projected into these glasses, guiding me directly into the office building.
Right now, there is a company that decides what sits on your face, how much you pay for it, and whether your insurance covers it. They own the factories, the brands, the stores, and the vision plans. They set the price before you walk in, and they collect the money after you walk out. Most people will never know its name. Most people will never realize they had no choice at all. And that is exactly how it was designed to work. 26 billion and still hungry. You probably bought a pair of glasses or sunglasses in the last few years. You probably thought you picked them out yourself. You compared brands, tried on different frames, maybe even felt clever about catching a sale. But in 2024, the company behind almost every step of that experience reported more than 26 billion euros in revenue. That is not a typo. One single company, 26 billion euros. And they are still growing, still acquiring, still expanding into territories that have nothing to do with correcting your vision. EssilorLuxottica is a name most people have never heard, and that silence is no accident. They own Ray-Ban. They own Oakley. They manufacture frames for Prada, Chanel, Armani, Versace, and Burberry. They own LensCrafters, Sunglass Hut, Pearl Vision, and Target Optical. They own iMed, one of the largest vision insurance providers in the United States. And in 2025, when American consumers finally tried to challenge the company in court with antitrust cases alleging monopolization of designer frames and custom lenses, those cases were dismissed. The legal system looked at the most vertically integrated company in the history of consumer goods and decided there was no case to answer. That should make you deeply uncomfortable, because while the courts cleared them, nothing about the structure of this industry has changed. The same company that makes your glasses also sells them to you, also runs the store you buy them in, and also decides how much of the bill your insurance will cover. You walk into what feels like a free market, and every single door leads back to the same room. You are not a customer in this system. You are a passenger on a ride that someone else is steering, and the ticket price was decided long before you showed up. And what makes this even more unsettling is how personal it is. We are not talking about luxury handbags or sports cars, things you can choose to live without. We are talking about the ability to see clearly. Nearly 75% of adults in developed countries use some form of vision correction. This is not a want. This is a need. And when one company controls this much of a basic human need, the question is no longer whether they have a monopoly. The question is what they choose to do with it, and whether anyone is paying close enough attention to hold them accountable. The closed loop that looks open. If you have vision insurance in America, there is a strong chance your plan is administered by iMed Vision Care. Tens of millions of Americans are covered through this provider. Your plan tells you that frames are covered up to $150 at participating retailers. That sounds reasonable. That sounds like the system is working for you. But the insurer writing the benefit, the retailer selling the frames, and the factory that manufactured them are frequently the same entity. The loop is closed, but it is dressed up in bright lighting and friendly signage to look wide open. Independent optometrists across the country have reported quiet but persistent pressure to stock company products. Franchisees of Pearl Vision and other chains within the group have described reimbursement rates being negotiated downward by the parent company, while inventory requirements got tighter and tighter. One optometrist in Texas refused to steer his patients toward the company's retail shops. His subleases next to LensCrafters were canceled shortly after. A former LensCrafters manager once described the entire arrangement as a closed loop that looks open. The lighting is flattering. The choices appear endless. The price is never accidental. What makes this so effective is how invisible it feels from the inside. The company does not need to overcharge you in a way that feels aggressive or suspicious. It simply needs to control every single stage of the process so that the final number, whatever it turns out to be, feels normal. And because you never see who is behind the curtain, you never think to ask whether the price could be fundamentally different. You never wonder if the frames that cost $250 are made on the same machines as the ones that cost $15. That is the brilliance of the system. It does not feel like a trap because the walls are completely invisible, and nobody teaches you to look for them. The orphan who built the machine. The man who built this empire was not born rich. He was not born connected. He was barely born into a life that would let him survive at all. Leonardo del Vecchio came into the world in Milan in 1935. His father, a vegetable seller who had come up from southern Italy, died of pneumonia just months before the birth. By the time Leonardo was 7 years old, his mother could no longer feed the family. She made the decision to leave him at the Martinet orphanage in Milan. He was never adopted. At 14, he started working in a tool and die workshop, learning to cut metal with a precision that most children his age would never come close to touching. In 1961, at 26 years old, he opened a small workshop in the mountain town of Agordo. He did not make glasses. He made the small metal parts that went into other people's glasses. Hinges, temples, nose pads. He named the company Luxottica. Within a decade, he owned the frames themselves. Within 2 decades, he owned the brands that went on the frames. Within 3 decades, he owned the stores where the frames were sold. The orphan who grew up with nothing spent 6 decades making sure that almost no one else could control what sits on the face of the world. When he died of pneumonia in June of 2022 at 87 years old, the same disease that took his father took him. He was the second richest man in Italy. The machine he left behind did not slow down. It accelerated. And you have to sit with the weight of that story for a moment, because the fact that a man who started with absolutely nothing built something this enormous tells you 2 things at once. It tells you what human determination can achieve when it has no limit, and it tells you what happens when ambition runs for 60 years with no one powerful enough to say stop. Most of us complain about the cost of glasses and move on with our lives. Del Vecchio looked at the same frustration from the other side of the counter and decided to own every piece of it. He did not just build a company. He built a system so complete that his death did not even slow it down. How they ate everything. The takeover did not happen overnight, but it happened faster than most people realize. In 1990, Luxottica listed on the New York Stock Exchange instead of Milan. Del Vecchio reportedly said that if you must sail, you should choose the bigger sea. With American capital behind him, he bought Vogue Eyewear that same year. In 1995, he swallowed U.S. Shoe Corporation, a company 5 times the size of Luxottica, simply to own LensCrafters. That single acquisition gave him the retail storefront that would become the backbone of the entire empire. Then came the deal that changed everything about eyewear forever. In 1999, he paid $640 million for Ray-Ban from Bausch & Lomb. Wayfarers that had sold for $30 at gas stations across America disappeared from shelves. They were redesigned, not in the workshop, but in the public imagination, and they returned at 5 to 8 times the price. The lenses and hinges barely changed. The logo, the lighting, and the story told about them changed completely. And millions of people paid the new price without ever once asking why it was higher. Sunglass Hut was absorbed in 2001. Then came Oakley in 2007, and this acquisition told you everything you needed to know about how the machine really operates. Oakley had gotten into a pricing dispute with Luxottica. Almost immediately, their products vanished from the largest specialty eyewear retailer in the world. Oakley's stock collapsed, and then Luxottica stepped in and bought the weakened company for $2.1 billion. That is not competition. That is a predator that understands exactly how to let its prey weaken before finishing the job. Licensing deals with Prada, Chanel, Armani, Versace, Burberry, and dozens of others followed the same blueprint. The fashion house lent its famous name. Luxottica designed the product, manufactured it, distributed it, and sold it in its own stores. The margin stayed with the machine, and in 2018, the final piece locked into place when Luxottica merged with Essilor, the world's largest maker of ophthalmic lenses. Frames, lenses, brands, retail stores, and a massive vision insurance plan all sat under one roof. The customer walking into a brightly lit shop believed they were choosing freely, but every single step of the journey had already been designed by the same company. The city that makes half the world's lenses. There is a city in China that most people have never heard of, and it is responsible for half of every spectacle lens made on Earth. Danyang sits about 2 hours west of Shanghai by high-speed rail, with a population under 1 million. In the 1960s, skilled workers from Shanghai and Suzhou glass factories arrived in the countryside, carrying nothing but their experience. They set up workshops in the small towns of Situ and Dabo. The polishing powder turned their faces a deep red, and the locals began calling them the red-faced Guan Yu after the legendary warrior from Chinese history. By the mid-1980s, the local government built dedicated markets near the railway station, and within a single year, more than 400 factories had sprung up around them. When foreign frames flooded into China in the early 1990s, the industry nearly collapsed completely. But the pain forced an agonizing shift from glass to resin that ultimately made Danyang stronger and more adaptable than it had ever been. Around 2007, a company called Mingyue Lens partnered with Nanjing University of Technology and broke the foreign monopoly on high-index lens materials. In 2014, Dingxin Machinery produced China's first domestically made coating machine, cutting equipment costs by more than half. Today, Danyang produces roughly 400 million spectacle lenses every single year. More than 1,600 companies operate there. 50,000 workers show up to those factories daily. Independent laboratory testing has shown that multi-coated Danyang lenses now match or exceed the optical performance of products selling for 10 to 20 times the price in Western retail stores. A city that most of the world has never heard of makes the glass that sits in front of half the human race. And yet, most of the money generated from those lenses ends up somewhere else entirely. The monopoly's own secret supplier. You would expect Danyang and EssilorLuxottica to be on opposite sides of this fight. One represents cheap, accessible eyewear made at massive scale. The other represents the premium machine that keeps prices high through vertical control. But the truth is far more tangled and far more uncomfortable than that clean narrative. Essilor began buying into Danyang more than a decade before it merged with Luxottica. They acquired Wangsun Optical in 2010, Yuli Optics in 2011, SeaWorld Optical in 2012, Krieski Optical in 2017, Future Vision in 2019. The company maintains a dedicated development and testing center inside the city specifically to evaluate and improve the output of its Chinese suppliers. The same industrial parks and production lines that supply Zenni Optical and unbranded Amazon sellers also feed components directly into the global supply chain of the company that charges $250 for a pair of wayfarers. A Danyang factory manager who has supplied both domestic online brands and European luxury groups described the arrangement without any bitterness at all. Same machines, same workers, different box, different price. That is a direct quote from someone who watches it happen every single day. Academic studies of the optical supply chain now use Danyang as a textbook example of high-volume, low-value added production where brand owners capture the overwhelming majority of the final margin. The city that was supposed to be the antidote to the monopoly is, in many important ways, already inside it. That reality should fundamentally change how you think about every pair of glasses you have ever purchased and every price tag you accepted without questioning it. The $6 Rebellion. In 2003, Zenni Optical launched with a brutally simple idea that scared the industry. Buy directly from Chinese factories, sell online, and eliminate every single middleman. complete prescription glasses starting at $6.95. By 2022, the company had sold more than 50 million pairs. Later figures pushed past 70 million. Meanwhile, Warby Parker's founders, still students at Wharton Business School, were stunned when they realized that replacing a lost pair of glasses cost more than buying a brand new smartphone. They launched in 2010 at $95 a pair and proved beyond any doubt that customers would switch the second a credible alternative appeared. Online prescription eyewear sales in the United States rose from under 3% in 2015 to more than 15% by the mid-2020s, and the shift was led overwhelmingly by younger buyers who never developed the habit of paying $200 for plastic and glass. A former Zenni sourcing manager described standing on a Danyang coating line in 2018 and watching lenses come off the same machine going into 3 different boxes. One box for Zenni, one for a European luxury brand, one for a no-name Amazon seller. The only difference between those 3 products was the label on the outside and the story told about what was inside. For the first time in 60 years, the price of clear sight is no longer set entirely by one company. But do not mistake a crack in the wall for the wall coming down. The online disruptors prove that people will pay less when they are given the option. And that revelation alone changed millions of lives. A college student who used to choose between groceries and new lenses no longer has to make that choice. A single parent who put off an eye exam because the glasses afterwards cost too much can finally afford to see clearly. Those are real people whose lives changed because someone decided to sell glasses at what they actually cost to make. But the machine that controls the premium end of the market is still running at full speed, and it is already building something that $6 glasses cannot compete with. The race for your face. EssilorLuxottica is not slowing down, and it is certainly not standing still. The company continues to acquire retail chains and ophthalmology clinics at a pace that makes it clear the vertical integration playbook has many chapters left to write. But the real move is not about traditional glasses anymore. It is about what glasses are becoming, and that shift changes everything. Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses are already on the market, built in partnership with one of the most powerful technology companies on Earth. Oakley is developing its own line of connected eyewear. These are not novelty gadgets destined for a drawer. They are high-margin devices that sit far above the $6 price war and open up entirely new revenue streams in wearable technology, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality. At the same time, myopia control lenses for children are growing at nearly 20% per year, creating a market segment where medical necessity and premium pricing overlap in a way that is almost impossible for budget competitors to challenge. The next decade in this industry will not be decided by who makes the cheapest pair of glasses. It will be decided by who controls the technology that turns a simple frame into something that can see, hear, and think for itself. And right now, the company with the 60-year head start is moving faster than anyone else on the planet. Think about what that means for the next generation. Your children might not just wear glasses to see. They might wear glasses that record, translate, navigate, and respond to voice commands, all manufactured, branded, and sold through the same vertically integrated system that already controls traditional eyewear. The orphan from Milan did not just build a company that dominated one era. He built an infrastructure so deep and so wide that it is now the foundation for the next one. And if nobody intervenes, the same invisible walls that control your glasses today will control the smart lenses you wear tomorrow. So the next time you put on a pair of glasses or sunglasses, ask yourself who really chose them for you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to hear what you think about all of this.